from Nashville, Tennessee. It's time for another episode of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow, where all things related to your safety and security are discussed, detailed, and delivered to you. You may leave with a tip that saves you money or a tactic that saves your life. So here are your hosts, owner and founder of Defend Systems, Brink Fiddler, and owner and operator of Herring Technology, Tom Herring.
Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. Brink Fiddler, owner and founder of Defend Systems here. I would say, as always, my co-host Tom Herring, but he stepped out on me at the last minute and told us to proceed. So batting second is Adam McIntyre, also known as our Director of Training at Defend Systems. So we're excited today to introduce you guys to not only to Dustin Brooks, but also to the company that he's a co-founder of, I think is the best way to say that, which is ZeroEyes, which is the best way I can describe it is it's a analytics software company that enhances existing surveillance camera systems for weapons detection. And I probably butchered that, but that's the way I describe it.
That's great.
When I'm trying to talk to people that don't necessarily understand, and then I explain it a little bit more. So, Dustin, first of all, thanks for coming and thanks for being here with us. Also with us today is we have the Director of Information Technology with Herring Technology, Aaron Hatcher, because we are talking about technology. And believe it or not, technology does have limitations. A lot of people don't think that's true, but that is true because the problem with technology, it's created by people, and that's where people tend to fail to remember that sometimes. So there is no perfect solution. If you ever ask an IT guy, will this work? Most of the time the answer you get is it should. I've never once heard an IT guy, especially Aaron Hatcher, say, yep, it'll work. I've never heard those words come out of his mouth. I've heard him say, yep, it should. I don't know, probably hundreds of times easily. Is that
that's
fair?
Fair.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, and much like ZeroEyes, it should work too, right, as well. So, Dustin, before we get into ZeroEyes, just a little bit, I just get a little bit about your background. I'm not going to do the whole shebang, but a little bit about your military background, and then you guys as in ZeroEyes, the co-founders, kind of the hole you saw, the void you're trying to fill based on y'all's background. Because I think your background is just as important as the problem you're trying to solve, right? Kind of how you got to both. So,
sure, yeah. So my professional career started out in the military, special operations. There's 5 founders of the organization. 4 of us came from the SEAL teams, and then another one had a background in technology. So, you know, when we were trying to put ideas to paper, we were able to kind of shape and mold what it would look like, and then actually be able to take a step forward with that team, right? So 4 guys that had backgrounds in management and also, you know, in security, we were able to then come up with an idea of what it would look like for being able to support in some of these active shooter events. And Parkland shooting in 2018 was really the first step for us to take a look at it and say, okay, here's the problem. It continues to be a problem. There's years backdating this problem that continue to exist. And even as we've seen as recent as last week, you know, we're still fighting that problem. What exists out there, what currently is laid out, and what doesn't exist, and where do we think that we could provide value based on what the market is kind of shaping to be. At the time, facial recognition, license plate recognition, people were starting to use video analytics, and the term AI was starting to float around. It wasn't as prevalent as it is in today's talk track and language. But in 2018, we were kind of getting access to some of that from our purview where we had an entry point. And one of our other co-founders posed the question, if all these types of video analytics and recognition type things are happening, could we boil it down to just one thing and pick up guns? Because guns shouldn't be in they shouldn't be exposed. We call them active weapons. So like an exposed gun in hands, we call that an active gun. Could we pick up active guns in places of business, in transit centers and school districts, and then be able to provide situational awareness to not only the security teams that are responding, but the security teams that are there on campus, and potentially minimize the damage, prevent, and then also help the responding teams be able to then be more effective in their approach if something is happening or has kicked off. So our team got together and drew that out and came up with a solution of ZeroEyes to get early warning firearm detection.
Yeah. So I think I described it right, but based on what I know, you guys you're a software, right? It's analytic software. Yeah,
we're kind of a hybrid, right? A software as a service. We are a software product, but we do have a managed service, which you've been to the office, you've seen our operations center. So we do have. There is a managed service that sits in the back behind it from our teams that actually engage with our customers too.
Yeah. So the software itself is designed to coexist with an existing surveillance system. And again, correct me if I mess this up, Aaron, you too, but I mean, I do talk about their product somewhat frequently, but it's designed to ride on an existing camera system or commingle with an existing camera system to use your surveillance platform that you already have at your business, at your school, whatever else, to now also potentially do weapons detection. It's not foolproof, and a lot of times cameras are not placed for weapons detection. They're placed for other reasons, and then we put ZeroEyes on them, and people don't understand the limitations. We'll get to all that in a minute. But then if you guys do get a potential weapons detection, the thing I love about your product, to your point, you have a human factor on every detection where there's a human being physically looking at that image from that system to say, yes, that's a gun, and no, it's not. And then from there, taking that information. So we're not just relying on technology and AI to prevent, dispatch, like all the things. We actually have a human element in there, which I think is, and I've seen your to your point, your operations center, and it's extremely well done and well managed, and it takes it, in my opinion, to the next level of this, because you guys aren't the only guys in the industry that are dabbling in this, but y'all's is by far the most impressive that I've seen.
Thanks. And I was talking to Aaron when I first got here about. I asked him a question, how has your business changed since products like ours started hitting the market as far as camera placement, the types of cameras that are coming out? And we do see, we see it, people are starting to evaluate, okay, there's a capability that's out there now. How are we making these cameras smart? Like what positions, and I forget what the term you said was, but it was like the cameras that we deploy are... they have to be thoughtfully placed.
Position matters.
So before, in the past, security cameras were, at school districts specifically, let's talk about that. Is there theft or is there fights? Or like places where kids would, be doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing at school. So that's how cameras were being placed. Now that products like ours are kind of hitting the market, and these guys are starting to deploy them in ways that would be effective, that support video analytics too. So I think that is kind of a really interesting position, and we'll only continue to see it, right? Like this stuff, our industry has started to deploy video analytics, and we can't unsee that, right? Like that's now a thing. It's out there, and it's only going to get more robust. It's not just going to be weapon detection. Like the industry will continue to evolve too. and camera systems and deployments will have to as well. And then with our, with the operations center, appreciate, the shout out there. But when we built that out, we decided to control that whole, chain of events and process. So our company owns the whole, start to finish operations center engagement with our customers. So we don't outsource anything. We saw the need for that. We visited a bunch of 911 dispatch centers and saw the work that they were doing. And the amount of alerts that those like 911 dispatch centers have to manage at any given point in time, especially if there's like a real event, it's wild. And so, when we were thinking about like an outsource model, what that would look like, and putting ours as a priority on top of the dispatch center, it just didn't seem like it made sense. Like, we didn't think that speed to this type of environment would really be effective the way that we wanted it to. So we decided to build it out ourselves.
Yeah, I'll say all the time, and you're saying the same thing I do, you would have lost control of your deliverable.
Yeah, there's so many variables that exist already.
Yep.
And, if that's something that we can spend more resources and more money as an organization, but provide a better product and better value to our customers in this type of event, like, I feel like that's, to us, that's the only way to really do it.
Yeah, agreed. Well, to your point about camera placement, I thought about this after the Antioch school shooting here in Nashville, for people that don't know about that, but it was a shooting in a cafeteria. Most cameras placed in cafeterias are placed up in the corner, high ceiling, where they can see the whole room. Because, to your point, that's what they're designed for: theft, fights, all that kind of stuff.
It's an analysis.
That's right.
Yeah,
I'm not looking for weapons. So, it's that we could put your software on that camera all day, and in the right angle and the right lighting and everything else, is it going to detect? Sure, of course it is. Is it going to detect every single person in there potentially has a gun in their hand? No, it could, because of angles and all the stuff, right? Where placement wasn't a thing. But at the end of the day, I think all the analytics, all the technology that you guys deal with, Aaron, specifically, I think you guys are all after the same thing, which is obviously prevention if possible, but what can we do to mitigate? Like, we're all trying to shave off time, right? Is at the end of the day, is how much time can we shave off from event popping off to event being over, and how do we give people that are responding the tools to do that and to do it effectively and do it better, right? I mean, I guess Aaron, you would certainly agree, because all the stuff y'all do with that, not just from a camera perspective, but from background checks, from access control, real-time access control, being able to turn a disgruntled employee's access off to the building immediately, but also potentially track somebody through a building. I won't name your clients, but a lot of your clients, their capabilities, if something were to happen, number one, they're going to get an alert from these guys or whatever. And I want to go back to that on the ZOC in a minute. It's called the ZeroEyes Operations Center, but I happen to know the acronym for it because I got to visit. They have the ability to literally follow somebody through an entire building and never take your eyes off of them, and provide that information to responders. I think what's interesting about the way you guys do it is that if your system does detect a weapon, and an image goes to the ZOC, then there's a human, number one, looking at it saying, yes, that's a gun. No, it's not. That's a umbrella being held in a really weird way, or whatever it is. Because there's going to be false positives, because there's no perfect analytic out there, right? I mean, that's just going to happen. So the human factor is a big differentiating point for me. Beyond that, though, the way y'all set it up, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it depends on the customer what the next chain of events is, right? Who do you want us to contact, like if a weapon's detected, right? If it's a business, they may not want you calling the business. They may want you calling 911 for them. But if they have a armed safety team, then maybe, right? Am I saying that right? Like, it just depends on.
Yeah. So back into the chain of events, our software, we could deploy it at what you would call, 100%, right? And that would limit the amount of data that goes to our operations center. So it would say, software saying, hey, if it is not 100% totally verifiable per our, video analytic, it's not going to show up. It's not going to go to our operations center. It's not going to get reviewed, and it's not going to be sent to the customer. We deploy it a little bit lower of a threshold. So though we continuously build out our analytic and try to make it, the best, and that's going to happen for the duration and lifetime of our organization. We still deploy at a lower level and put the burden on our operations center instead of our customers. So we say, hey, that gun that was on a T-shirt walking around at some XYZ mall, we want that to show up at our operations center so our analysts can review that and say, okay, hey, that's not actually, a threat. It's not an active weapon. So when you talk about false positives, yeah, we love seeing that stuff come through, because then that gives our team the ability to then review more and put the burden on our team. And then they are the ones that then, filter out that information. When they do get a true positive and they dispatch it to the customer, then you're right. It goes over into their SOPs, standard operating procedures, of how that customer responds, because no customer is kind of like a out-of-the-box turnkey solution on how they respond to threats. There's different technology layers. They have different systems. They have different mentalities. It could change from region to region, state to state. They have different funding mechanisms that support their advancements. We try to embed with them and understand those, and then say, hey, here, we've done this enough times. We've seen we've seen like a setup very similar to yours, and during our installation process, our onboarding process with the customer, it's not something we offer as a service, but we intrinsically just kind of discover those moments for the customer and kind of help shape them get to a point where they can be self-sufficient with our product and our alerts.
Got it. I think analytics obviously have come a long way, but a lot of what you guys were up against is like, is this dude armed or is he not? Right? Like, so if you had a software like this, or even on your deployments, either one of you, but I know Adam's done a bunch of those. Like, we all know that we have eyes in the sky, right? Whatever that looks like, and being able to run this kind of software on something like that, because wouldn't that a lot of what y'all are up against? Like, does the dude have a gun or does he not? Like,
no, it could help a lot. I mean, from any plane or ISR platform in the sky, or even on our forward operating bases, we'll always have cameras all around and stuff, and we could be in the middle of a neighborhood. Well, all these neighbors, they carry guns and they're allowed to, but it would have been nice to know to put your guys' software on one of these cameras, and a lot of stuff that you guys show me, it would have made our job a lot easier, and it would have taken a lot more time off of our hands. But having something like that on the forward operating base and just being able to, that camera scan out and be like, yep, we got a guy 500 meters out to the west side of the base. Yep, he has a AK. Like, all right, cool. Well, at least we're tracking that before he gets 10 meters to the base. And then, all right, now he's at the front gate, and then ultimately too late. So going back to what you guys were talking about before, it's a proactive prevention measure, not necessarily, hey, we're going to review what happened so we get better next time when they come in. Like, no, we're going to hopefully mitigate or stop them before they ever come into this base or shoot at our guards. But 100%, they would have been very awesome to have this on some of the bases I was at to detect this stuff a lot earlier. So,
yeah, I'm sure it would have been a lot nicer. And traditionally, Aaron, I'm going to toss this to you, but I mean, traditionally, most people that I see, they put in a camera system. The number one reason they put it in is, for security, whatever. But the way they end up using it is a playback, like to tell me what happened. It wasn't, the proactive use of cameras. Right. You guys were ahead of the curve on that from most other technology companies. I mean, from the day I met Tom and you both and sat down in here for the first time, being proactive with it. And then, of course, obviously what ZeroEyes has done is just giving you guys a more robust ability to do that and take that to your customers also. But Have we seen a good shift now? I know you guys have been preaching it forever, but have we seen a good shift now with the customer base using stuff proactively, especially from a camera perspective?
Yeah, it's definitely, like you said, it's a mindset shift that used to we had to preach a lot harder. I think the understanding is coming along with the products, the proactive products such as ZeroEyes, those things advancing, that really helps sell the idea, right? And along with the camera placements and getting all these tools in place, it helps the end user when maybe they don't have the same amount of people involved to help. Their organization's smaller, and they can use these tools to get there faster, right? So definitely. I think the mindset shift is being able to see it in real life, is seeing it actually happen in front of them. And that's one thing when we demo, we try to show is how it's actually used instead of the magic words of AI. And, like I've mentioned to you many times, I feel like we're demystifying AI most of the time. And that's why we've designed this building in the way that we've designed it, and put these products in, because once you see it, it helps you change your protocols and your placements and your layouts to actually have the cameras work for you instead of just assigning people to look at footage all day.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just like seeing your guys' operations center and headquarters and meeting the guys and all that, you told me about it all day, and that's one thing. But seeing it's a whole different different thing. And then I saw your lab too, and I don't know how much I can say there or not, so I'll be careful. But you guys have an AI lab where you're constantly upgrading and updating your software and the camera angles and the camera brands and the lighting and just all the stuff just to make your product better. I was blown away by that place. I mean, it makes sense that you had it. I mean, but until you see it, I was like, goodness. But it just to me means okay, you guys, and it's not surprising. I mean, people that come from the special operations community, I don't know a ton of y'all, but the ones I do know are all overachievers, go figure. So, which is great for a business and great if you're trying to problem solve. So the fact that I saw that in you, it's just a constant of you guys trying to upgrade and improve and dial it in. And to your point, if you could turn it up to 100% where you're not going to get a notification unless the software is 100% that that's a firearm, and why you dial that back. Same reason we dial that in on certain other weapons detection technologies out there, and I'll leave that alone. It's the same reason those things are dialed in a certain way, because at the end of the day, it's still technology. And so, like your point, we want to see that gun on that T-shirt just to know, hey, we got that, and put that human element in between there, which I think is outstanding. When you guys are going in and talking to a customer, I guess, Dustin, this for you, do they just expect you're going to come drop this, and if a camera sees a gun in the building, we're good, we're going to get notified? I mean, is that their expectation at first? I mean, I understand you're going to explain the limitations, but is that what their expectation is, or is it all over the place?
Yeah, we can talk about it. So our customer base comes to us with a problem, right? Or just wanting to be able to get themselves in a better spot than they currently exist. And everybody in this room the majority of people that I run into in the security industry know that good security comes in layers. So we have to think about that across the board. Our customers come to us, I would say they're a little bit more advanced than your typical customer looking for a security solution, because they have checked a bunch of boxes. They have SROs in place for school districts, or they have a security team in place for the corporate environment. They've got the cameras in place. They've got the access control systems. They're looking for that next layer of advancement. They're trying to bring on something that's going to make their team better. So they're coming to us, trying to solve a problem in that realm. They have a little bit more knowledge, so they do go to these conferences. They've talked to multiple vendors. They're looking at different types of solutions. The conversation's changing a little bit, but in the past, typically people want. It's not just an expectation. They're like, hey, we want somebody to come in and tell us when a gun is on the campus. And we want that to happen immediately. And sounds like, this solution may be that. And it's not foolproof, right? And so we have to kind of help shape them into a position where they'll be successful with our product and not, overstate capabilities or over put them into a position where they think that, it's an invisible fence, and that we're, weapon sniff detection as opposed to visual, firearm detection from camera systems. And the limitations exist at the quality of the camera, at the network of the customer site. And so we try to educate our customers in that realm. And then even post-installation, onboarding with the customer, we still, encourage a lot of testing and training so they know what they have. They know limitations. And they know where we can be successful, which will ultimately make them successful.
Yeah, very well said. I know for a fact your system works. We talked about this offline, and I won't say where, but I know because I've set it off multiple times. Yeah. Doing some of this stuff.
We should frame that one in the office.
I want a copy if you're going to do that. I want to see it. I've never seen it. But I know it. I know it works. But back to the placement issue, if we're trying to entryways, for example, and we're trying to see if somebody's going to walk up with a gun, the camera can't be 18 feet in the air and do as good a job as it's going to do if it's 5 feet off the ground, right? Same with facial rec and some of the other stuff but traditionally it's been put cameras up high where they can see more and blah, 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 but you can't really see more. I mean, you get more in your shot, but that doesn't mean you can actually see more. You guys again are talking about shaving off time. So, and you hit on Parkland, Florida. So let's just kind of dial in on that one a little bit. Obviously, it's one that that we talk about a lot and done a lot of study on. But nobody would have seen his gun walking in the door because it was in a rifle case. So there would have been no alert. But you would have gotten an alert in that stairwell because there was a good camera angle in there. I don't think I've talked to you since we did this about it or not, but Adam and I and Tracy and Gloria actually went to Parkland last year before they demoed the building and spent an entire day with their lead homicide investigator and unpacked way more of that than we knew about. But in all that footage, I mean, he gets that gun out, y'all would have hit on it for sure. And I imagine in that scenario, being at a school, the school district probably would be set up to notify admin or SROs or whoever, and he'd have been able to get there. Now, granted, we can't control the fact that he didn't do his job and he didn't go in and handle business and all those things, but that's where we're talking about with the big value add for you guys is shaving off that time. I mean, you're not going to stop them all. Maybe if you see one coming from far enough away outside, potentially we could stop one. But there's still a process in place, right? Your guy still has to see it, has to register. Yep, that's a thing. And then he's got to, based on who the customer is, I understand it's going to be right in front of them. They got to figure out what the SOP is, get in touch with them. Then that person's got to make whatever call they got to do, and all that stuff takes time. But at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about here. Is more than likely is it's shaving off time and damage mitigation. I mean, we all want to prevent them. I mean, we're all in the same industry. At the end of the day, we're all trying to help people help themselves. Like that's what we're doing, and we all want the prevention piece. But when we realize that prevention is just not super achievable all the time, but mitigation is, then I think it's a huge value add. And I think most of the customers that I've talked to that are familiar with you guys or have asked us about your product, they do understand like what it's for and how it should be used, and that we are talking about mitigation. But also from a law enforcement response, we haven't talked about this, but that's another thing that I think your software would help shave time in that. I hit it earlier, Aaron, on a bunch of your clients have the capability based on the amount of cameras they have to literally follow somebody through the whole property. And I'm thinking of huge property. You can probably think real quickly which property I'm thinking of. I know for a fact they could follow one person through that entire property from camera to camera to camera to camera to camera. That's great. But that requires somebody to sit there and do that. This doesn't. And so if ZeroEyes is riding on that system, it's going to follow that gun everywhere that gun's visible. And that's real-time intelligence for the people responding to be able to get to somewhere. Because, again, I'm not going to say where I'm. You know exactly where I'm thinking about, I guarantee you, and how massive that is. Well, how big of a game changer would that be if I know as a responding officer, like where in that building I am? Because where I was 30 seconds ago, as I pull up and exit my vehicle and take the time to throw my kit on and get my rifle out of the trunk, you're not in the same spot. Like, there's no way you're in the same spot. Maybe not even 300 yards in the same spot. And I think that's where this would make a huge difference on mitigating that time. Is that?
Yeah, knowing the last place the gun was seen. That's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big deal.
I think there's like success criteria. Success criteria number one is that, okay, everybody knows that there's a gun on the campus or the location. That's success criteria number one. And in the Parkland instance, we keep going back to that. There's multiple buildings at a school district, right? So to know that, like, at least we know that there was a shooter at this building at this particular time, that also may be where the damage was caused. So first responders are providing aid to that arena, immediately. They're getting there for that. Not only trying to go after the active shooter, but they're providing aid in that location as opposed to responding to a building because somebody made a 911 call, 200, 300 meters across the campus. So you're at least giving a direction, like what you said. And that's success criteria number one. Success criteria number two is if you get those follow-ons, subsequent alerts throughout the campus, and then you can relay that information. A lot of the officers that I've talked to that respond to these types of things, they say that, we're getting those first calls, we're getting that first initial information, and we're showing up on site, and it's pretty much popping out the earpiece, and we're managing the site. Like, we're trying to feel and see where things are moving, because you have an active shooter situation. The amount of 911 calls and like that fog of war from people that are calling stuff in is a lot of the times inaccurate information about what they look like, where they're located, who's injured, who's not injured. Like, somebody may have bumped their knee, but now they're shot, and it's like, so they're trying to triage that. So success criteria number one is, okay, there is an event. We need to respond to it. Success criteria number two is, okay, we're following this situation as it unfolds. And that's kind of how we look at it.
Well, it's amazing. So your point on managing the scene and popping the earpiece out, it's amazing how fast intel goes stale, right, in an active environment. Because, like, even Covenant, for example, I mean, if I'm the caller on the phone with the 911 call taker and I'm telling her what I just saw, then she or he's typing that up, right, and adding it to the call text, and that gets pushed up in front of the dispatcher. But who knows how many things have come in before that dispatcher can even read that to the guys. Not only that, the dispatcher can't just sit there and hold the mic and talk the whole time, because they have to listen to what the guys are saying. So this whole dialogue back and forth. So by the time that information that I just gave them, that, oh, yes, that male in camouflage walking towards the south hallway towards the sanctuary on the second floor, by the time the guys in the car get that information, it may be 30, 45 seconds, a minute and a half later. That's gone. It's stale. It means nothing at that point in a building the size of Covenant or any of these other places. Whereas your all's information is real time, and depending on the setup. Again, I love that you guys can, depending on the SOP for the organization, whether it's law enforcement or government or not, or even school, you guys can talk directly to them if that's something they set up. And that's, I guess it depends on the situation, but that is what we recommend to them is set something up with a direct link to take as few of the middle people out of the way as possible. Not cutting law enforcement out. There's just too many layers in there. I mean, there's by the time the cops were dispatched at Covenant, right, by the time the dispatch went out, everybody was dead. And that's nobody's fault. It's just the way these things happen, because the information just the information flow is not as fast. And so anything we can do to speed up the information flow to the people that are responding, that's usually what we tell our customers if they're looking at specifically at you guys, like set it up where you get a call like the customer I talked about where I set it off. I know what the protocol is there. You're calling them. You ain't calling the police. You're calling them. They have the capability to go respond to that.
Yeah.
And as long as you have that capability to respond to that, I personally think that that's the best methodology for deploying your system and deploying it quickly and effectively is have a direct link of communication between the customer and you and not putting law enforcement in the middle. They need to be a peripheral communication piece for sure.
Ideally both.
Sure.
Like ideally you're hitting both of those things and you're getting as much of a response as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And man, I think about, I can't tell you how many different arenas I've heard Mike Tyson's quote of everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. It definitely applies to security, and any one of these situations that pops off, name any one of them that's happened. It's not like a out of the box turnkey solution being able to solve for X there, right? It's what do I have in place that allows me to triage it as fast as possible? And rare is the day that anything doesn't go sideways in like a live true event. So, kudos to the security professionals that are out there that are making decisions on how to best structure for their SOPs to support their environment, their arena with what they have.
Yeah. And then, just let me hit on, I'm not going to get into all your pricing and all that kind of stuff because that's not what this show's about, but, you guys also find are really honest with your customers and that like, hey, you don't need our software on every single one of these cameras because some of these cameras are not going to necessarily do what you need them to do. Or if you're on a budget, then you guys can come in and just put your software on certain cameras and not each and every camera in the system and where they're going to get the most bang for their buck. And again, I'm not going to get into your pricing model. It may have changed since I talked to you last anyway, but I was surprised at how affordable it is for what the deliverable is, in my opinion, just because I'm impressed by your product. And so it doesn't require somebody that if you have an existing camera system that's decent, I mean, don't throw some analog camera at me with, RG6 hanging out the back and tell me that ZeroEyes is going to perform great on it. I mean, let's be realistic.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Amen. But to Aaron's point, when he demos stuff here at Herring, one of the most affordable cameras they have does facial rec just perfect if it's placed correctly and the right lighting and the right placement.
Yep.
And I think the same goes for you guys too. But do most of your customers? What's their response from a? I'll say it. I don't want to say an affordability standpoint, but you get what I'm saying. Like from a price point on what the deliverable is. What are most of them right in the middle? Like I said, I was surprised at what I feel affordable it is based on what you're giving them.
Sure. We try to price in a way that's scalable for our customer site. So we work off an economies of scale model. More cameras, longer durations of contract, we're able to provide better pricing structures. And we also deep dive with our customers early on and find out what is viable, what's not viable. So we do disqualify things because success begets success, and we want to be successful with our customers. So I don't want to go on a camera that we're obviously going to fail on for XYZ reason because it's, garbage quality. Everything looks like a peanut butter smudge over the front of the camera. That's not going to bode well for video analytics. We encourage our customers with maybe budgets and grants that they do get to update their camera systems, and we're seeing them boomerang back around ultimately and coming back to us and then trying to add on the solution. I feel like, within our customers' budgets, what they're trying to deploy, we're very well aligned with them to be able to create a force multiplier for their locations. And, we've been able to scale at large levels with really, robust, big customers and seen success there as well. Not only is our organization being able to, take off really big chunks, but our customers being able to fund those initiatives. This past weekend we had, I was telling you when we sat down, we had 3 arrests this past weekend. So being able to see that success is not only great for us, right? It's internally rewarding in the sense that it was like, okay, we have an idea, we think that we could be successful, and now we're seeing the fruit of that labor, and in the active shooter space continues to only increase. So hopefully we're doing our part. But yeah, we definitely price in a way that supports our customers and their budgets and be able to deploy effectively on their campuses.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And you stole the phrase I was going to use next, which is force multiplier. You got to it before me, but we talk about that. I mean, we talk about that in our training, that doing little certain things is automatically a force multiplier for your organization, whatever that is, right? And in this case, we're talking about your software and your analytic and your in the back end support, the whole program. Obviously, Adam being a Green Beret, I mean, you talk about force multipliers. That was your job, was to go stand up a foreign fighting force and teach them and train them and lead them and force multiply. Why are we doing that? Well, because the more good guys we have working on a problem set, the better off we're going to be, and the faster that problem set's going to get solved. Like, end of story. And that's exactly what you guys are after. And I love that you talked about how you're not going to put your camera or your software on a camera that looks like it's got peanut butter smudged all over it anyway, because that means you're more concerned about the deliverable than you are about just adding another camera and another source of revenue for that month. Because like, you got, it was obvious to me. I mean, it was obvious to me when I sat down with you the first time, but especially when we went up to Philadelphia and saw all the stuff that you guys are. The deliverable is at the end of the day, like y'all don't. And again, it's no surprise. It's just being around special operations people. That's kind of how y'all roll. But y'all aren't half-assing anything. You're constantly trying to improve, and you're honest about it. And that's what I see a lot in the technology and the security industry, is that a lot of people say that they're in it for the right reasons, they're doing the right things, but their actions say otherwise. And without getting into any specifics, because it doesn't matter. Anybody listening to this in the security industry or not will know what I'm talking about. Whatever industry you're in, you got people like that. It's a shame when I see it in our industry, because then we see people who are taken advantage of. We see people that are scared and are in fear, and then there are people that prey on that to generate more business. And that's not in the business we're in at all. We don't fear monger. I refuse to do that. We're honest with people, and we teach them data, but we don't fear monger and don't take advantage of situations like that. But there are people in our industry collectively, and y'all know what I'm talking about, that do that. And so it's refreshing when a relatively new technology or company comes along that I actually feel good about. And I hadn't heard of you guys, like, just because I'm in the industry, but I tell you that the two people that drove it home for me and like, hey, you need to sit down with Dustin, I'll make an intro, or this guy right here, Aaron Hatcher and Tom Herring. And you know what my level of trust is with these guys, because they, just like y'all, they do it right. Like they do it the right way. The mission's righteous. Business growth will come from that, right? Like, without having a shortcut or talk bad about other people or whatever, lie to the customer, whatever it is. Tom is sometimes brutally honest, but I think we all should be. That's going to make us all better. So, anything you want to add real quick about ZeroEyes? Or I guess the number one way for people to get in touch with you guys would be visit your website, which I'm sure is ZeroEyes.com, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Our team's done a really good job on our website with gun violence database as well. So there's a lot of great free resources on our website. I can't promise that you're not going to have an email in your inbox or somebody calling your phone
Sure.
if you download something from our website immediately, just the way that it's set up. But we have a ton of good information and resources on our website that point to a lot of different directions to try to provide an educational position on the arena in this space to anybody seeking information. So we've tried to offer that and be that partner to existing customers and then people that are even thinking about, our product or the industry in general. So the website's a great place to get a hold of us. And, that's pretty much it. And I want to mention back to your point with creating standards in the industry real quick is that I think it's really important for people to call a spade and own it. And you can speak to it from the military. It's the fastest way to get forward and have solutions and things. So I'd encourage everybody in the industry to kind of follow that mindset, and rising tide raises all ships. And we all kind of work together, from curb to core of a building, those solutions can kind of come together and create a good security position. So, just wanted to touch on that real quick.
Yeah, be ethical. It's a foreign concept these days to some people, but some people get lost in the either the bottom line, right, when we're talking about the money side of things, or just in what you guys were hitting on off air. People get lost in the mire of, what can I do for me today, and they lose sight of why they got into what they're into. But we also need to keep each other in check on that too, to some degree, depending on what else is going on with our business and our lives. And we talked about this in a previous episode with a guy about, holding each other accountable, but also like checking on each other and like, cause it's a heavy industry we're all in. Like at the end of the day, it's heavy. Like all the stuff we do, like I used to say when I was in law enforcement, nobody calls the cops because they're having a good day. Right. So so you think about like how many crappy events are you part of just in law enforcement, or you guys downrange, like, well, okay. And now we've turned that corner and made a different career choice. But we're still in a pretty heavy industry, talking about heavy stuff and, events that have life altering consequences for people, which is terrible. But at the end of the day, we're all in it for the same reason. That's, again, help people help themselves. Our company mission statement is empowering you to save lives, including your own. That's like me, you, Adam, all of us would have, we got to give him my left arm to be rolling up to Covenant on March 27th, 2023 at 10:10. But we're not going to be. I'm not going to be. You're not going to be. You're not going to be. You're not going to be. What can we put there? And the answer is analytics are going to help them. Cameras are going to help them. Access control, force entry protection on their glass, training for the people in the building. Those are the things we can do. And I think all of us are in it for the right reasons. Like I said, unfortunately, not everybody is, but that's neither here nor there. I think we all are. So I appreciate you coming on today and talking more about ZeroEyes. It is. I'm a huge believer in it, and I've seen it firsthand. Like I said, I've set it off inadvertently a few times, but that's a whole different story. It doesn't matter. Just know that it does work. So for more information, as we already mentioned, reach out to Dustin and his team on ZeroEyes.com. Also, if you like this show and you have show ideas, we'd love for you to send us an email at info@tipstacticstools.com. And then also, if you don't mind, if you're so inclined to leave us a review, that'd be great. And if you have any kind of show ideas or guest ideas, please reach out. And that'll do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us.